Okay, so I want you to take a deep breath because what you are about to watch is a video about Donald Trump's controversies. And I want to be very upfront with you right now. We are going to need a bigger screen, possibly a bigger building, maybe a second planet. Because here's the thing about Donald Trump. Most presidents have a scandal or two, maybe three if they're really unlucky. Gerald Ford tripped going up some stairs, and it followed him for the rest of his life. One trip. One. That was his thing. Meanwhile, Donald Trump wakes up, tweets something that breaks international news, eats a well-done steak with ketchup, and that's not even in the top 10 of his controversies that week. The man doesn't do things small. Never has. And love him or hate him. And a lot of people do both at the same time. You have to admit that the list of controversies surrounding Donald J. Trump is unlike anything any of us have ever seen in American political history. So grab something to eat, get comfortable, and let's go through it. All of it. Together. Before we dive into the scandals, I think it's important to understand who Donald Trump was before politics. Because a lot of people forget, this man was famous for decades before he ever ran for office. He was a New York real estate developer, a casino owner, a reality TV star, and a man who put his name on literally everything. Trump Tower, Trump Steaks, Trump University, Trump Vodka, Trump, the game. At some point there was even a Trump magazine. The man branded everything he touched like it was going out of style, and then some of it actually did go out of style. By the time he announced he was running for president in June 2015, riding down a golden escalator in his own building while a crowd cheered, some of whom. June 16, 2015. Trump rides down that escalator and announces his candidacy. And within the first 10 minutes of his very first campaign speech, he said something that immediately sparked outrage across the country and internationally. He made sweeping negative generalizations about Mexican immigrants, calling them criminals and saying Mexico was sending its worst people over the border. Now, the reaction was immediate and enormous. Univision dropped his Miss Universe pageant deal. NBC cut ties with him. Macy's stopped selling his clothing line. Multiple business partners walked away within days. Any normal politician would have apologized, backpedaled, maybe gone on a media tour to do damage control. Donald Trump doubled down. He didn't just stick to his position. He seemed to get more energized by the backlash. And here is where things get historically interesting. Because the very thing that was supposed to destroy his campaign, the controversy, the pushback, the outrage, actually helped him. His poll numbers went up. His rallies got bigger. And a whole section of the American electorate said, finally, someone who says what they're actually thinking, whether you agreed with what he said or not. That moment on the escalator was the beginning of a completely new era in American politics. And it was just the opening act. Okay, I want to talk about Trump University because I think it perfectly captures the energy of a lot of Trump-era controversies. It has everything. Big promises, unhappy customers, lawsuits, and eventually, a settlement that cost him $25 million. So here's what Trump University was. It was a series of real estate investment courses and seminars that ran from roughly 2005 to 2010. Not an actual university, no degrees, no accreditation, no campus. Just seminars. And the marketing was very Trump. Posters with his face. Promises that students would learn his personal real estate secrets. Claims that instructors were handpicked by Trump himself. Except the instructors were not handpicked by Trump. And the secrets weren't exactly revolutionary. And a lot of people who paid up to $35,000 for the top programs walked away feeling like they had been sold a dream that never materialized. New York's Attorney General filed a lawsuit. Multiple class action suits followed. Students said they were pressured into spending more and more money at each level. One of the more memorable details to come out was a playbook that instructors allegedly used to identify which students had good credit and could therefore be pushed toward higher-priced packages. Trump fought the lawsuits for years, calling them politically motivated and insisting the program had a high satisfaction rate. He settled in November 2016, right after winning the presidential election, for $25 million. He did not admit wrongdoing. To be clear, $25 million is a lot of money for most humans. For Donald Trump, it was apparently the price of closing the chapter and moving on, which he did. Immediately. October 7, 2016. 1 month before the presidential election. The Washington Post publishes a recording from 2005 of Donald Trump on a hot microphone, talking to TV host Billy Bush on a bus before an entertainment segment. And what Trump said on that tape? Well, it was bad. It was really bad. It was the kind of bad where even people who supported him went quiet for a moment. The tape showed Trump making extremely crude and degrading comments about women, describing in explicit terms how he felt his celebrity allowed him to act toward them without consequences. The quote was everywhere within hours. Every network, every newspaper, every phone. You already know the quote. Everybody knows the quote. I'm not going to repeat it here because honestly, you've heard it enough. The reaction was seismic. Republican senators and congresspeople who had endorsed him started withdrawing their endorsements in real time. His running mate Mike Pence reportedly considered leaving the ticket. Political analysts across the spectrum said this was it. This was the moment that ended the Trump campaign. Trump released a statement calling it locker room talk and saying it was from 11 years ago and didn't reflect who he was. 11 days later, he won the presidential election. I'll pause for a moment so you can process that. Because even now, years later, that sequence of events is one of the most genuinely stunning things to happen in modern American political history. Here is a sentence that has never been true about any other president in American history. Donald Trump was impeached twice. Twice. Most presidents spend their entire careers hoping not to get impeached once. Trump got impeached twice in a single term. That is either a record or a warning label, depending on your perspective. The first impeachment came in December 2019. The charge was abuse of power related to a phone call with the president of Ukraine. The allegation was that Trump had pressured the Ukrainian president to investigate Joe Biden and his son Hunter in exchange for military aid that Congress had already approved. A whistleblower inside the government filed a complaint. Congress launched an investigation. Transcripts were released. Multiple administration officials testified. Trump was impeached by the House, but acquitted by the Senate in February 2020. He literally held a celebration at the White House after the acquittal, with a printed list of all the people he was mad at. That is a very Trump thing to do. Then came January 6, 2021. You know the story. After losing the 2020 election, a loss that was confirmed by courts, election officials, his own attorney general, and pretty much everyone who looked at the numbers, Trump held a rally near the White House and made a speech that many people, including members of his own party, believed incited the crowd to march to the Capitol. What followed was one of the most dramatic events in modern American history, as a mob stormed the United States Capitol while Congress was certifying the election results. Trump was impeached a second time by the House, with 10 Republicans crossing party lines to vote yes, the most bipartisan impeachment vote in history. He was acquitted again by the Senate, but the vote to convict was the most bipartisan of any presidential impeachment in history, with 7 Republican senators voting guilty. 2 impeachments, 2 acquittals, and the man came back and ran for president again, and won again. You genuinely cannot write fiction this dramatic. Okay, we have to talk about Signalgate. Because out of all the controversies in Trump's second term, this one might be the one that makes future history textbooks scratch their heads the hardest. Here's what happened. In March 2025, Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, was going through his phone and noticed he had been added to a group chat on the Signal messaging app. A group chat that included the vice president, the national security advisor, the CIA director, the defense secretary, and other top national security officials. And they were discussing an upcoming military strike against Houthi targets in Yemen, in real time, in a group chat that a journalist was accidentally added to. This is the part where I need you to really sit with what I just said. The top national security team of the United States government was discussing an active military operation on a consumer messaging app, and they accidentally added a member of the press. And then the bombs started falling in Yemen, which confirmed that the conversation was 100% real. The defense secretary initially questioned whether the information in the chat was actually classified. The White House called it a miscommunication. Democrats called for investigations and resignations. The national security advisor said it was an embarrassing mistake. Here is my personal favorite detail about the whole Signalgate situation. At one point in the group chat, someone sent a series of warrior emoji in celebration of the strike. In a group chat that a journalist was reading. I want to be very clear. Emoji. In a classified military operation chat, with a journalist in it. This actually happened in 2025. In real life. I promised you funny. And I have been building to this one. In late 2025, there were multiple reports and at least one instance caught on camera of Donald Trump appearing to fall asleep during a cabinet meeting. Now, cabinet meetings under Trump's second term had become known for something very specific. They were sessions where administration officials would compete to offer the most enthusiastic praise of the president. One by one, around the table, they would essentially say their favorite things about him. Journalists dubbed it a kind of organized flattery exercise. And apparently, even that was not stimulating enough to keep the president fully alert. There he was, on camera, eyes closed, head drifting, in a room full of people saying nice things about him. Now look, I'm not going to make this purely a health issue conversation because that's not the fun part. The fun part is the symbolism. The man who built his entire brand on energy, stamina, and never sleeping. He once bragged that he only needed 4 hours of sleep a night, was caught napping during a meeting where people were literally just complimenting him. If that's not a metaphor for something, I don't know what is. Okay, we've laughed. We've raised our eyebrows. We've shaken our heads. But I want to take a moment here to step back and say something more serious, because I think it matters. The controversies surrounding Donald Trump aren't just entertaining stories for YouTube videos. They represent something real about this moment in American history. They represent a time when the old rules of politics, the unwritten ones about what you can say, what you can admit, what you can survive, got completely rewritten in real time. For better or worse, depending on who you are and where you stand, Donald Trump showed that a political figure could survive things that would have ended any previous career. He showed that a base of devoted supporters could insulate someone from almost any scandal if they believed that person was fighting for them. And he showed that the media, the opposition party, and the traditional political establishment had far less power to define a narrative than everyone assumed. That's not a compliment or a criticism. It's just what happened. And whether you're celebrating it or mourning it, you have to reckon with what it means for how American politics works going forward. The controversies didn't slow him down. They seemed to fuel him. And that, more than any individual scandal, is the story worth understanding. So there it is. Trump University, the escalator speech, the Access Hollywood tape, 2 impeachments, Signalgate, a cabinet meeting nap, and so much more that we didn't even have time to get to today. And trust me, there's a lot more. Donald Trump is, without any question, one of the most controversial figures in modern American history. His supporters see him as a fighter who refuses to be destroyed by a system designed to stop him. His critics see him as proof that accountability in American politics is broken. And somewhere in the middle of all that noise is the truth, which, like most truths, is complicated and probably uncomfortable for everyone. What's not complicated is this. The story isn't over. Not even close. And as long as Donald Trump is in the arena, there will be more chapters to write. If you want to be there when we write them, hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below and tell me which controversy surprised you the most. And share this with someone who thinks they already know everything about this topic. I promise you, nobody knows everything about this topic. Not even the man himself. I'll see you in the next one.